I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody, here we are finally.
Last day of deer season.
Boy, it's gone by fast.
Season. And duck
Yeah.
season,
Lots of things.
Yeah.
No wonder everybody's getting here. In the
Right here
office.
Yeah, I have wanted to do this podcast for a long time, but let me
too.
start by saying we've got two guests, and Clay County just is a mecca for
It's
sports.
a great community, and these two guys are part of that too. There's no doubt it. Bill and Cody been a long time. I don't know how long I've known y'all's guys, but
So, Lanny, we've got royalty in here today. Bill Duke of Duke's Traps.
it is.
I mean, that's royalty. And well, I don't know about this, but we got Cody Shows.
Bottom of the barrel.
No,
And let me just start by
he's
saying
in the bottom. That's for sure.
he is the first person to ever come into this studio wearing a ponytail. And I kind of like to think we run a tight ship around here, but
You mad or jealous?
Jealous for sure.
I miss my bangs.
You can see he's jealous.
I wish I had my bangs back. But
Yeah, Bobby's the exact opposite. You know, when I call Bobby's house, let me speak to Bobby. He went to get a haircut, and I said, I'll just hold.
Yeah, it won't take long.
yeah,
No.
okay.
You were gone for like 2 minutes the other day. Is that
It
where you
didn't.
went?
It didn't take long. It
Oh
sure
man, I'm crying. That's good.
Well, we are really glad that you guys are here. We want to
Absolutely.
talk about trapping, and Cody is he's a really good trapper. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. You're a really good trapper,
Oh, wow, Bobby.
and and Bill Duke. You can't go anywhere without hearing somebody talk about Duke traps.
No, you can't.
Nope.
It's incredible. Y'all
Worldwide, baby. That's
yeah,
right.
y'all, you
correct.
really have.
Yep.
What a business.
Well, trapping it's a growing little trade right now because of all the emphasis on turkeys, deer hunting. It's filling the gap for a lot of hunters when those seasons are closed.
And I think it's why the fact that we have a whole episode devoted to it tells you the growth, however size it is, the growth with the conservation-minded. And honestly, I'm sure they have a lot of business with the government people that there's a huge animal damage control effort going on, nationwide.
Yeah, you can speak to that.
Well, I think that's true. There's a growing trend among all outdoor people to get involved in trapping, but there's usually a spark that starts at when you start seeing turkey numbers go down. People start wondering why. Why is this going on?
Yes.
And I've been on a couple of other podcasts and tell the story because Toxie was one of the first, I call them early adopters of trapping with those off-season times. One day he called on the phone. He says, hey, have y'all got any of those live traps? He probably remembers this, maybe not. And I said, yeah, we got some. And he said, well, I need to come down there. How many's on a pallet? And I said, well, there's 20. And he shows up with a 20-foot trailer and says, let's see how many pallets we can shove on this trailer.
Let's get to trapping.
And that was well over a decade ago. And, that was one of the first, really serious efforts right there.
Mm-hmm. I go back to Dr. George Hurst, such a pioneer over at Mississippi State in the wild turkey. And, he went by his research, and when he revealed to us what happened with their radio collar studies, at the time, I think he had 7 years worth of radio collared hens statewide. This was Mississippi. And they were losing 92% of all eggs to nest predators. And, even to the point where he had charted the cycles of distemper, I believe it was. I'm speaking off memory, and that's dangerous. And he showed the cycle between the hatch success and distemper was just a exact opposite. In other words, I think and it wasn't exactly, but about every 7 years we have a drop in the raccoon population, and we had the best hatch then too. He was so convinced of it, he was putting kind of consortiums of you would get up to 10,000 acres to cooperate. They would bring a trapper in, it's Mississippi State and him doing it for free in trap, but you had to give them people in like Ohio. The ones we got were from Ohio. So Daddy put that together, 25 years ago maybe, because Dr. Hurst, from his research, knew what that meant. Now we know today there's a lot more involved in nest success than that, but I can assure you after such a long time of doing it, it makes a big difference over time. I mean, we could have factors beyond our control that knock our hatch down disproportionately, but, if whatever has happened over time, I've seen more. So, I remember Chuck Sykes talking about it on a podcast with Cuz. He's like, trapping for predators on your place, in a myriad of them, actually. He said, not just the nest predators for, beavers. Oh my gosh, the timber they destroy. There's just so many things that you can improve your place by trapping. But Chuck had a great comment, and I'll never forget. He said they've incented people to trap so much more in the state of Alabama, at least. I think here too, that I think this 12 months out of the year it's okay to trap. There's no closed season on trapping like raccoons and possums and stuff like that. But his point in telling people was like, it can make a big difference, but don't think you're just going to buy a few traps from him and go out and trap and, boy, you made a difference. He said, I relate it to keeping your yard cut or keeping your yard. You don't go out there and cut your yard and forget about it for the rest of the summer. So especially putting pressure on them and knocking them down right before the nesting season, which actually occurs during turkey season too, is very, very beneficial. And I can attest to that on all our places that we've been involved with. But it seems like the longer we have stayed with it, it begins to pay more results than a one-time hit. So you got to have the discipline to stay with it. And, if you get to where you enjoy it, and I think we're going to hear a lot about that today, you enjoy it, then it becomes fun, not just work.
Well, that's Cody. I
Yes.
watched him trap some last year. He enjoyed it as much as I would have enjoyed going on a turkey hunt or something.
Well, it's fun. That's why.
I love it. Honestly, if I had more time, I'd do a lot more of it.
It's
Now,
addicting.
Cody brought a raccoon up here late yesterday afternoon for us to cook. And
Sam's
Sam
in there, yeah, jammed it in the Instapot.
Yeah, and Cody fussed at me because I put it in the freezer. But Sam and I talked last night, and Sam said, well, we need to freeze that so that if there was any problems, what am I thinking of? Bugs or bacteria? What was he trying to kill with that in that freezer?
I think you've made this up.
Is that right?
I do know that it is safer to have frozen something supposedly 24 hours. Deer meat and everything.
Especially deer.
Yes.
Yeah.
The name of the disease is escaping me, but it's the same reason. Like if your wife is pregnant,
Toxoplasmosis is
they're not
disease.
supposed to be around cattle. They carry that.
So
I don't know about raccoons.
I have come to understand that Cody, in his line of being a trapper, that he actually cleans these things, and there are people that buy them and cook them.
Oh, yeah.
And you legally at the certain amount of time, and I know you follow all those rules, but there are people that buy these things from you and cook them for like Super Bowl weekends and all that kind of stuff.
It's like a holiday. We cook a turkey for Thanksgiving, cook a coon for Super Bowl.
There we go.
As many as you can catch.
That is incredible. I have never been to a Super Bowl party where they cooked a raccoon.
I would love for more and more outlets of commerce for that. So,
That's
It's
an
an interesting.
It's an incentive to catch them. If you have a way to get rid of them or a reason to get rid of them, you can more reason to trap them and have a way.
That's right. I'm trying to spin this into a positive.
It is.
Because that's a good thing rather than throwing them in the ditch.
That's correct.
and,
Absolutely.
100%.
This is the way I enjoy trapping, just to be trapping, in the woods doing something. But if you can catch a coon, the fur's not worth a lot, but I do, skin them and save them. But if you can sell the meat, that more or less justifies,
your
buying
effort.
traps. The way I always look at it, if I can trap enough coons every year, it help pay my hunting dues. That's on my hunting club. I'm benefiting my hunting club and covering my costs.
And covering your dues. I like it.
Yeah, a lot of fuel, a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
It adds up.
It adds up a lot.
That's an admirable goal, and that a ton of people would love to be able to cover their
Yeah, monetize your hobby.
Lanny,
not?
where do you want to start here?
Sign me up for that one.
Yeah.
So with this trapping discussion, Lanny, where do you want to start?
To me, trapping is an art form, where hunting is more strategic and tactical. So, and the effect, the whole trapping mentality has been lost, I guess. And I'm proud to see the resurgence of that, and along with Duke traps and having the products and stuff over there to get to it. So I don't really know what the hell point I was trying to make with all that.
Yeah, well, so here's where I'd like to start with this. Cody, would you start off? We're probably primarily talking about raccoons and possums right now for this, and I've got one of these Duke dog-proof traps. But would you talk about what a guy needs to start off with and how he can go about? Is it hard to catch raccoons? What do we need to have, and how can we get started?
Well, if you had a place that you were going to just start trapping, your hunting club, well, you could get those dog-proof traps, and I like to use, it's a earth anchor to put in there, because a lot of times you have people want to use wire and tie them off. Well, you have a coon that gets in there and twists around, that wire breaks, he's gone with your trap. You got no coon, no trap. So that's the way I like to use, because it's faster, set more traps, in my opinion. But a dozen dog-proof traps, take them. First place you would go to, I guess, to easiest spots to catch would probably be feeders. Everybody's got we got
100%.
You always hear during the day, I got 20 coons at my corn feeder. I got this many coons at my corn. Well, you can go catch them.
Yep.
Yeah, you could probably put 3 or 4 earth anchors around every feeder and just put a piece of flagging tape on it.
In fact, I was always advised to not trap with those all the time, have a camera there, and just descend on them with multiple traps, because they're so smart.
Yeah.
They figure it out. So catch as many as you can right away when you descend on them at a feeder.
If that would be, if I was didn't know anything about it, that'd be my go-to spot. The next spot I'd go to, you can look on your map, is a ditch or water. They're going to hang close to that water. You will find them off, but that's a go-to spot every time. If you caught, like you called me about trapping your place that time, first thing I asked you, is there a ditch or a creek that runs through it? You know they're going to be there. And that's the simplest way you can get a head start trying to catch them. But when you go to that feeder, you put several traps in one spot, because there's more likely going to be more than one comes in a night. And you'll always have 1 or 2 that are trap shy. They'll come through there and they may look at it, but no, they're going to keep eating what they've used to eating, And you can pull that trap out of there for a few days and then stick it back in there with something different in it, and that might get him that time.
So are you wearing rubber gloves, or are you just going in there setting up? Yeah, what kind of bait are you using?
I'm a big, all I use a dry cat food with a fish oil mixed in it. Like I buy just pure fish oil and mix it with a dry cat food. And to me, that oil the scent lingers a lot longer. Like when it rains, even that cat food will get a little moist and kind of melt away basically, but that scent hangs in there. I try to stay away from anything that's sweet. Everybody uses marshmallows or vanilla wafers and stuff like that, but I always run into ants. When you're setting a bunch of traps, it's easier just to have a jug of cat food and not have to tote a bag of vanilla wafers or a bag of marshmallows, or different strokes for different folks, but that's just, I've always had better luck with that consistently coons. You're going to catch possums, you'll catch a skunk every once in a while, but that's a...
So when you walk up to that set and you've got 5 traps out there and you got 3 raccoons in them, what happens then? You walk up and you shoot the coon with a pistol, or what do you do?
Yeah, I walk up. I got a .22 rifle that I had forever, but I shoot the coon, and as soon as I shoot him, I try to get him out of the trap, because they're they're bleeding or whatever, and to get him away from there so that all that's not around. And I try to get most of the old bait out of the trap, or if there's any mud caked around it, because this time of year when it's raining, there'll be just a mud ball, and get it cleaned up, get it reset. And more than likely, if they're there, you can catch a coon in the same trap the next night. They're not as scent weary as a lot of other animals are. They're curious by nature, so they're not. It's not a.
They're not spooked by it. I think they associate in a lot of areas human scent may be something good to eat.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of our listeners have watched, videos and such on trapping, and you see the folks trying to catch, canines, coyotes, but they're very conscious of their scent. Some people will put a little mat down, and I mean, I've caught raccoons with this. I've used the dog proofs. I also use the footholds. You can almost just leave the foothold exposed, and they, looking for a scent, and they step on it. And I mean, you really don't. It's not a lot of work to catch.
It's not
nest predators.
It's not at all. once you start running 40 or 50 traps, it turns into work, but a dozen traps set out is the simplest thing a person can do to do that. I mean, and they're not that expensive. Like you say, you start selling your coons, pay for your traps, you're not out of nothing but a little bit of time, and you're in the woods doing something, so why wouldn't it bother?
Absolutely.
That's all good.
The dollar for dollar trapping the Duke dog proof is the best value on the planet Earth. There's no question. Yeah, and I think for me, I like the combination of both. Now, of course, the cage traps are a little bit more expensive, but I like having both. What I found was fairly short order. The coons are just smarter than possums, and those are the two primary, and so I got to where I was probably only catching 70-80%. I was catching up to 70-80% possums over coons in the live traps. And then there's especially in Alabama, a young man that's really good at trapping, hits some forests each year. He comes in with his dog proofs. He's catching 70-80% coons. His formula was different, but he was catching the really smart raccoon would get onto the cage trap quicker. And so the other thing I found out is, in general, you might back this up or not, I'll yield to Cody on all this stuff, but sweet will tend to catch more possums, where fish tends to catch more raccoons. So when I was doing kind of a sweet vanilla, and we catch a good bit of stuff, but then I mixed just catfish food with it because it had a fishy smell, and it changed almost overnight to more raccoons too. But to really hit your raccoons, I would encourage people to get some live traps, but also for sure the dog proofs.
And we're talking about the Duke. The Duke makes that dog proof.
Yes, it's for dollar, it's the best thing, and it will catch the trap shy ones a lot better.
Yeah, you can a lot of those older coons. You can tell if you like those live traps, you'll come there and the bait will be gone. Well, they won't get in there and get that bait. They'll reach through the back of it and get that bait out. They're smart enough to know that I'm not getting in there. I'm going around the back and getting all I can get, and I'm leaving.
I actually put a camera on one time, and a big coon flipped it over.
Oh, yeah.
And then got it.
Bill, looks like you're about to die to say something.
What I was going to add is having multiple methods in place.
Yes.
You'll get them if you have multiple methods. So you got dog proofs out, you got cage traps out, multiple different baits. You'll get the majority of them in that area if you've got multiple methods between traps and baits.
Yeah. Cody, what if you walk up and there's a skunk there? What do you do then?
Same thing.
Back up a little bit.
Just
4th and 30 punt.
Yeah. Aim high.
Like in a dog proof trap, you're kind of limited, really. You can.
What do you do?
Most of the time, I shoot them.
Walk away.
Shoot them behind the shoulder, or in the gut, and wait a day and go back, just to save me from getting sprayed. But most of the time, you can.
That's worth it.
If you don't disturb them that much, just to give them time just to pass and be done, they'll just lay there and die, basically. But I have tried to get them out, shoot them and get them out real quick without getting an onion. It don't work, and it's hard to get off.
Yes.
So, but on the live traps, I've trapped for people around their houses and stuff, and you can take a blanket and ease up there real slow and lay that blanket over the top of that trap and pick it up and tote them off wherever you want to and turn them loose. Not turn them. I let them go run out there and shoot.
That's not crazy.
I don't turn anything. I'd take no prisoners.
Right. But the thing about a live trap, you do have the choice. Someone doesn't want to kill the predator and they want to just move it somewhere else.
Way
I
far
think
away.
As long as it's legal to move them.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody should have their own choice about what they're doing. So I'd always heard that. I was just scared to try it. I've been several people say throw the blanket over them, and their point was, if you can get to the handle, that's the key. You could carry it, and even if they did spray, it wouldn't be able to spray on you directly.
Yeah, their direction. You can catch one in a foot trap, and you can tell like he's gonna squat down in the front, pick his tail up, but he's gonna keep his eye on you. But if he ever starts spinning around, you probably better move.
How far do you think they can spray?
I don't know. I'd probably stay from Bobby for a while.
Oh,
You
I'm
can
gonna
see it
be
coming
at
out
least
when-
that far.
You can see it when they coming out, when they spray. But
Oh yeah.
I'll get close to them, especially at night. A lot of times just after work, checking traps, and you get on one close, they don't.
Yeah, based on what I've read on some of the old forums like Trapper Man and such, to dispatch a skunk, the the best way to dispatch is a heart shot, whereas a headshot will make more often than not make them spray immediately.
Yeah, they're more nerves, when they'll shake and they're going to spray. And then you'll be
behind the shoulder.
Your trap will smell like a skunk for a while. I still got
that's
some
cover
smell.
scent, man.
Yeah, it will cover everything.
Yeah, it does.
So a guy with a deer hunting club. So as deer season has gone out in most places and just went out here in Mississippi, now you could descend on your property with these traps, and you could expect to catch one in every trap for a few nights. Would you say, Cody?
That's it. It just depends. I mean, you're going to, like tonight, like I set a bunch, at a new spot Saturday afternoon, expecting. Last year I trapped this spot, and I think the first night cost 15 or so, and we caught 2. But this weather like this, and if they don't have to move, they're not going to. And it's just not.
The cold weather, so a good cold night's gonna make them move better.
No, just rainy, nasty. Well, they've got to get out and eat, but they're not getting as far as they've got to go, So you may not see them at your feeder, but they may get down and go to a honey hole that they have to eat at and come right back and lay up.
Yeah.
Take a nap when it rains like everybody else.
I'm just, my takeaway from this is it's a lot easier than most people think it might be thinking that it is to do this.
Well, you don't have to measure up to someone else. Nobody have to measure up to Cody or trapping experts. Just listen. It's so easy to get online, Duke. They offer all kind of advice too, and go do your own thing and learn your own way. I mean, I guarantee you, Cody got good at it because he just
trial and error.
Just trial and error.
That's right.
Yeah. What someone asked me how I got good at something one time. Y'all heard my expression. I was like, well, if you put your hand on a red hot stove enough times, sooner or later you'll quit putting it up there. You'll learn,
So I ran into a guy in Birmingham not too long ago that told me that he has a few dog-proof traps, and then on the week during deer season, when he's going to his camp and he gets there on Friday night, he'll go ahead and go down to a feeder and he'll just pour a little bit of corn in that, and then so he's going to be there Saturday morning, Sunday morning. He'll run a few traps all during the hunting season, deer season, and he says just putting a little corn in there works.
They like to eat.
You don't have to set them on top of that feeder. That coon's coming from somewhere. You can look and see a deer trail where you can look and tell a coon is coming here. Coon track's pretty obvious, and you can back off that feeder. You don't want to mess up your deer hunt. Well, get 50 or 60 yards over there in the woods and set that trap.
Yeah, the dog proofs for my photos, if a raccoon's in it, it doesn't really, as long as it's not right under the trap and there's no need to, they can smell it way away from the trap. It doesn't bother your deer a bit.
Yeah.
Now, it may bother them to go in there and dispatch one and some blood's there, maybe. But as far as like, if a coon in a dog proof, just a little bit for the deer, going to go get a bite to eat. I promise you.
Yeah, if you're staying at the camp for the weekend, you can put some out when you're on the way to your stand. Like if you have to cross a creek or something, you can put a couple out there. And, the next day when you go to hunt, you're not really interrupting your final destination. You're just trapping on the way and on the way back. And it does work really well.
How does that dog proof, for people that don't understand?
That's what I was going to ask.
How does that thing work?
Help explain it to us.
Ingenious.
Yeah.
It's a very basic trap, but I think it came from a gopher type trap that has a cylindrical housing. It has a pull trigger, and that's what really gets the coons. If something sticks its paw in there and pushes and paws on it, it doesn't set it off. So that's what makes the trap so special. You can ideally set it out for raccoons and catch raccoons and hopefully eliminate non-target catches.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a small tube. I can't imagine a dog could possibly get a paw in it anyway. And if cat or anything, I mean, I guess if something reached far enough, but you can push down on one. I mean, don't put your finger in it, Bobby.
Yeah. I can't get the thing squeezed too.
But you can push, put an upside down screwdriver, whatever. You cannot make it go off pushing down. That's the ingenious part. But if you pull up from below and grab it, it doesn't take but a hair trigger, which is what you want.
That's right.
So the idea is the coon is reaching in there to grab
I've seen people wearing like a little O'Connor bear. So you wouldn't want to wear one of those on a finger.
Nope.
No. I've come close to getting caught, but just my era. And
I still enjoy using the footholds, but where I trap, it's in a very rural area, and your chance of catching a non-target is almost non-existent.
Yeah,
But,
I still run some, not a bunch,
if
just
you're in
because
a-
those are so convenient.
If
you know.
you're near a residential area, it's just, I personally wouldn't do it. But the footholds are designed
Well, live traps could work in
to
that
be
residential.
very, very humane. It's not what people think, the way it grasps the pad of the foot.
No.
Boy, trapping has been around a long time. I mean, when
Yeah.
you go back to the start of our country, you just read about these trappers. And who would y'all say is the most famous trapper? Would it be Jeremiah Johnson? Or
I don't know. I've read
Bobby
some
read
books
too
about.
many novels.
Yeah.
I've read some books about a lot of trappers, but not.
But the Rocky Mountain Fur Company,
Yeah.
and I mean, they were just paying people to just get
the
after
fur
those
trade was a
beavers
huge
and-
part of our history.
Yes.
Obviously,
Yes, used
Yeah.
to be big.
used to be big.
That's when things kind of headed.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's what Dr. Hurst said when the fur prices plummeted, due to whatever bad PR or whatever it was, that when hatches started getting less and less successful, Now, could be coincidence too.
And fur prices probably aren't going to go back up, are they? I mean, that.
You never know in this world. Boy, inflation's gotten a hold
Bill
of
Duke's
everything.
man.
Yeah. What do y'all know? What do you think?
Well, going back, my family's been in the fur business
Yeah.
since my granddaddy was living, and it goes in cycles. You never want to say it never comes back because you just don't know. But we've seen cycles. They roughly go in 20-year cycles. We saw in the mid 80s late 70s, early 80s, where coon prices were in the $20 range for
Wow.
southern coons.
Wow.
And bobcats were well over 100. Otters were well over $100. And
What are they doing with a raccoon?
The southern raccoon is known as a coat coon. It's used as either a liner in a coat, or it can be used as a lightweight jacket
Mm-hmm.
because it's lighter weight than those big, heavy northern coons that are typically used as trim.
How about that?
$20 coons, it'd be hard for me to go to work.
Yeah, I was going to say, Cody be lighting it up.
See ya.
Well, see,
That reminds me of when I told y'all what my first career choice was
Yeah.
when I was running trot lines with Uncle Bud, and he explained to me they were commercial fishermen out there, and I was like, You mean they don't sit behind a desk, they run those trot lines all day, every day? That's how they make a living, son. That's Uncle Bud. That's what I'm
Sign
gonna
me
do.
up.
That's what I'm gonna do. I already got my career. I was probably 10, and I already knew what I wanted to do was run trot lines.
Oh wow, wow.
well, going back to the 70s, I know people that were trapping at that time. They made more money trapping than they did working a regular
yeah.
job. So
Yep.
it goes in cycles.
Yeah,
And-
a mink was like gold.
Oh, yeah.
And that wasn't that long ago. The mink was high. It didn't seem like.
80s.
80s was a peak.
Yeah.
It was a peak, but we've had some other peaks. Like I remember 2013, 2014. That was a high price for a lot of skins.
Well, I mean, supply and demand, even though there's maybe not as much used and there's kind of a bad name out there for whatever reason, still the supply and demand, and there's a worldwide supply possibly. So, if there's very few getting caught, that price could get really high, even with a small demand.
Well, let me ask this. So I don't know that I've ever seen anybody wearing a raccoon coat. Are these being exported somewhere?
I bet you have.
Well, and just
I
didn't
bet
realize
you-
it.
yeah,
But
that's
are they
right.
being exported somewhere to another country?
I think the majority of the raccoon skins get exported to China. Some of the coats get manufactured and sold into Russia. I know Ukraine was a big consumer of that.
Okay.
Wow.
But yeah, the majority of them, they do get exported.
Okay.
That's fascinating, though, from his end, because
It's a worldwide.
I thought of
economy.
another expression my dad has is like, you said, y'all been in the fur business for even a lot longer, hadn't you? And I think about Daddy talking about someone. Yeah, they've been in that business since Moses was hidden the bulrushes. It's been a long time. They've been in it a long time, multi-generational.
So there's a chance that this thing could come back around, and the fur prices come back up, and all of a sudden there are a lot of young people might be interested in getting into trapping.
Well,
just from a revenue perspective.
It could happen that way. It's cyclical, and that's just what you have to always realize is in a cyclical industry, you can have some really, really lows where you think things are just going away and they're never going to come back again. And then demand out of somewhere just comes up, and there you've got another bull market.
Right. It's kind of
Boom
like
town.
the hardwood timber market, it's species specific sometimes, because there are a lot of different fur bearers that are valuable and have varying degrees of value, and I think the raccoon probably took it on the chin more than any of them.
Aren't there some counties that offer incentives like nuisance pay and stuff like that as well for trapping?
Yeah, Clay County doesn't.
Nah.
There's several. I know Monroe County does. I think.
Beavers.
Yeah, beaver. Say buy a beaver tail.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, you could take a beaver tail to the courthouse in Madison County and get $5 for it.
I think the NRCS office does it now.
Yeah.
In Aberdeen they do.
That's the best money they'll ever spend.
Yeah.
I mean, return rather than having someone out do it for them. If they just paid so much for the tail results.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's probably programs like that. Are there programs like that across the Southeast or across the areas? I don't even know.
No, I don't know either. I bet Bill does.
Yeah.
I think they're county by county. It's
Mm-hmm.
maybe not statewide, but if the state came up with money and said, "Hey, we're going to give $5 or $10 or whatever it may be per beaver tail," they would really find some numbers. One other state that's done a fantastic job, I think, is South Dakota. They came up with a predator program because they were seeing a lot of pressure on the ground nesting birds. And I forget what the numbers were, but for fox tails, coyote tails, skunk tails, they were paying people to trap those, and I hadn't seen the results of it exactly, but you put a figure on that, you're going to see people really go after those animals and get the numbers down. I just think that's a smart way of managing wildlife. You're encouraging, providing an incentive for people to get the predator numbers down.
That's exactly what the whole philosophy of gamekeepers is, conservation and taking care of wildlife is not for the few with a bunch of money or government agencies or big organizations. It's for everybody.
It's for the common.
And and it's a lifestyle. And just like trapping, when it becomes fun, it's like you love it.
Oh yeah.
He's gotten good at it, but he loves it. He some people like turkey hunting, some people like tennis and golf. He loves trapping, and I mean it's a sport and it's a lot of fun.
It's exciting. I mean,
It is
it
to me,
reminds
too.
me a lot about fishing. You
Mm-hmm.
can't really see what you caught
Yeah, that's
until it
right.
comes
Yeah,
to the
that's right.
surface.
Well, I mean, it's
you
more
come
like
around the corner and you're what's going to be on the line, and then
Landy's
there
a
it
big
is.
cat fisherman, trout line, set hook guy.
I like
and
them
it's
flatheads.
very, very much like that.
It's the same thing.
Dudley,
It is.
yeah. Because
It
you
is.
don't know. I mean, you can see it from a little further off than the catfish, but you set the hooks and you go back and check them.
Right, and it's a mobile sport. You're not
Mm-hmm.
just sitting there. It's just fun. I'd kind of like to address. We see this a lot on social media these days, where folks are saying, habitat's more important. Yada yada. We manage our habitat.
Yep.
I don't feel like we even need to address that because we're doing both.
Well, I think the point is it's all important.
Yeah.
I think that would
100%.
everybody involved would say, just like, we talked about, you can't shoot culls your way into great genetics on a wild, free ranging deer herd. Well, but it's still a part of the toolbox. Well, we're just telling people there's no one thing in the toolbox that's a miracle cure.
No, it takes
I
it
mean,
all.
predator trapping, I would think maybe close to the top of the food chain, but it has to be married with smart habitat management and
Absolutely.
other issues. Yes.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
doing that anyway.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Dudley. And habitat's a big part of what we do. We love that aspect of it. But
Right.
So I feel like I'm kind of I don't know, I might be a little average. I've never trapped, and then for Christmas, my wife went down to your business, and somebody sold her 5 traps, and that's what I got. And I can't get these things to press together. But so I got this thing in here, and I think this helps you do that. But
That does.
I'm scared to death I'm gonna lose a finger doing all this. But I think it's pretty safe and easy the way I see other people demonstrate it.
I
to
mean,
me.
there's people
Really
that
safe,
will
yeah.
set the trap on themselves just to prove the point that it's a very humane way of capturing.
Yeah. So
Stick your finger in
Not
that.
me.
So a guy can call Duke Traps and probably talk to you and get him a dozen of these things shipped to him, and it's pretty simple, pretty easy. He can follow what Cody's telling him how to do it and be somewhat successful catching raccoons pretty quick, I think.
Oh, I think so too. That trap makes trapping easy.
Very.
It just makes it easy. People get started with that, and then they gradually move on to other things that are more complex. It's like maybe you start out squirrel hunting and then you graduate into bigger game.
Yep. I mean, it's so simple on the dog proof. Just bait it before you set it, and don't ever pull on anything. Just don't. I mean, just don't ever stick your hand in it for anything.
That's
too,
it.
you
Don't put your finger in the hole when you're there. You're safe.
That's right.
Cody, have you ever accidentally had a trap go off on you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, the dog proof?
No, I know that.
But a hand trap, yeah, like a foot trap, yeah. I've been caught in all of them. Conibears, foot traps.
I had a conibear bite me one time, but
Man.
it didn't snap on me. I was tensioning the spring, and I kind of missed something, and it sprung back over my hand, if that makes sense. And
It'll hurt you.
I was by myself. It wasn't fun, but I survived.
I'm looking at Mac. Have you ever done much trapping?
I wouldn't say much, but I have done it. And I will say I took my son, Wilkes, trapping, and he thought it was the coolest thing that he's ever done. I mean, he makes me watch YouTube videos of people trapping. I mean, he thought it was really neat. And I mean, I enjoyed it. And just being able to talk to him and show him the different, the paw prints and, show him the different species that are used in the area. And I thought it was a really good, easy way to kind of get him outside, and he could be loud and while we're setting the traps, so we didn't have to kind of worry about that. But I haven't done a ton, but taking him was a lot of fun.
Yeah, did y'all catch anything?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So he liked that.
Oh yeah, he thought it was cool.
But yeah, like you said, you're moving around. You can talk. You can, look at this tree over here, and you can do all of that, and you don't have to be quiet like when you're hunting.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize when you get out off the four-wheeler, out of the deer stand, and get in the woods, and you start looking for game trails, not just deer or turkey, you notice a lot of stuff. There's there's a lot more stuff there than you think is there. There's as far as, you may hunt all year and not see a bobcat. Well, you get trapping season and get off on a trail and go look and realize, well, there's more bobcats in here than I thought there were. You just don't see them.
They're
You
slick.
start trapping beavers. You get in there, well, there's some beavers in here. Well, there's otters. There's a lot of people who've never even seen an otter. But they're everywhere. But getting in the woods, setting those traps, you learn a lot and see a whole lot more than you will just strictly deer hunting.
Yeah. Great way to gather some woodsmanship.
Hey,
skills.
Yeah, and you see the habitat more holistically
That's
too.
right.
You
Really,
do.
really, really destructive. I just had to rebuild an entire very large lake because of nutria rats.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, is there a particular trap maybe you could catch them with? I know they multiply so fast, and they made Swiss cheese out of this huge dam. And we tried by, trying to hunt them and shoot them, whatever. Next thing you know, it was just collapsed on us. I hate them.
I catch them in foot traps a lot.
Okay.
Just a little crossover on, like you have a little dam or something like that.
Right.
They'll take a beaver dam, and kind of build on it.
Oh, it's amazing.
And you can take just a small crossover, which you can tell they've been using, which will be more grass and it will be sticks, and you can set them foot traps. I've probably caught no telling how many this year already.
Wow. They're bad news.
Yeah, conibear traps work awesome for them.
That's what I get. You got to be careful. The only thing is, the little small ones wouldn't hurt a dog, probably.
A conibear trap. Well, a nutria rat, you can more or less submerge them.
Right. That's right.
And if they get something's in the water,
You could. Just off trapping, but my one tip I found out, and I didn't realize, great pond builder down here in Scuba, David Bryan's built some for us, but he lined, and we have a particular pond Bobby loves at the Slade's place. It's so good at fishing. And I never have any trouble with beavers, nutria rats, or anything, and it's right off a main river almost. And he had laid the entire dam right at the surface of the water, bull panel all the way across. But that's been like 15, 20 years ago when he did it. It was a lot cheaper. We just did it with some leftover wire like hog wire, but we don't have any nutria rat or
keep them from digging.
yes, it stopped them. Yep. So that's by saying that, if you think you don't need to tend to that, if you're in an area where there's any at all, they will take your pond over. I mean, we literally had spots on the dam collapsing, and you're looking down 5 feet, there was nothing underneath there. So you could have just flipped a tractor or something with it. They're so bad. And we're on trapping. I just want to make sure there's effective ways to trap them, because I think if I started sooner, we wouldn't have had near as much problem with them when they
Get
first
all
showed up.
invasives.
So
Because they're so nocturnal, even if you go at night, there's just so many you can't kill them all with
They're there. You find a hole in the bank. Most of the time it'll be just under the edge of the water. That's where where you can take those conibears bears or a body grip trap, whatever how you want to say it, and put them there. You can catch them coming in and out of there.
Right.
Because
We've got 2 different duck ponds that will not. We've tried everything on the main. We're gonna have to dig them up and start over. They put right below the water's edge, really the summer water, which drains it down too low. And we've dug and dug and dug and found them, and there's still some more we can't find. It still won't hold water because of nutri-rats. Yeah, I'd love to be able to trap them better.
And that's a critter, that nutria. They're not around. They're not native. I don't think they're native to anywhere in the United States, are they, Dudley? And so they've just migrated up here, and this is a problem that
I think they tried to raise them in Louisiana, didn't they?
Yeah, I was just going to say they're not native to North America. They're native to South America, and they were brought in here, and I think farm raised in Louisiana. And I guess one of the hurricanes came through, opened up all the cages, and it's just been unable to get
Nutria everywhere.
Yeah, nutria everything.
hell on wheels. Wow.
Another reason not to introduce anything non-native to our.
So Cody, look, let's think about this. I'm gonna look at Bill and look at Cody, both of y'all. And it doesn't matter who starts first, but we like for our listeners to learn something. So, look, I'm asking you to give up some secrets here. Could you give a few tips to a guy who doesn't know much about trapping? Something to make him a little bit better, something that he needs to do. I see people boiling traps. What's that all about? But are there any tips that you can give a guy?
Well, if you're just getting started, your best case scenario is to buy those dog proofs right there. You speak of boiling traps. Those traps are powder coated, which that's a paint. So they're not going to rust. Once you catch a few things in them, they will, but you can take them and dye them at the end of the year. But taking that trap out of the box and getting it tied off and baiting it, it's ready. You're trapping.
Ready to go.
It's that simple.
Does anybody mod those dog-proof traps at all to make them trigger more effectively, or they're just ready to go out of the box?
I think you may see people that file the trigger some, but there's
no need in it, really.
There's no need in it. I mean, you take them out of the box and get them, as I say, use that earth anchor to put them in the ground.
Now you're talking about a stake and then tying that to a stake,
well,
right?
What we have, and y'all sell them, don't you? It's a cable actually it's just a metal thing that you push in the ground, and when it pushes in the ground, you pull up, it turns sideways in the ground. Because you can walk up there and you can pull it out of the ground, but that animal is pulling it, like at an angle, so he's not going to pull it up.
Yeah.
I use them just to be faster when I'm setting, because I'm trying to be faster. I run out of time, trying to work and do this in the afternoons. But as far as that is, it's ready to set.
And you could put a cable around a tree.
Yes, you can take a piece of chain with a carabiner on it, wrap it around a tree, and clip it off, and you're set, ready to go.
Yeah,
but
as far as put a swivel in it, so
yeah. But if you hunt and you know what a raccoon track looks like, just basically setting on sign. That's what you have to look for. You can't just stick it somewhere and hope he humps by. You want to be where he's at, basically. But that's
fish
simple. It's really simple. It may sound like a lot, but as far as those dog proof, that's as simple as it gets.
Yeah, it sounds like just getting out there and doing it.
Using a dog proof trap with cat food.
Yeah.
That's it.
The irony.
And a little bit of fish oil.
Fish
I mean,
oil.
I've used all kind of stuff. I've saved used cooking oil, and I'll put it in a little squirt bottle, and I'll draw a line across the road going to the little ditch where the trap is. So
Trail
if they're
them in
walking down the road, they hit that little line and go in, and then put some bait in the actual trap.
Their noses are so good.
Oh,
you wouldn't need much. I've had no telling how many people offer up, I caught a bunch of crawfish. I'm gonna give you, or heads of shrimp. And I mean, I've never had as much luck with that as I have with
fish
like
oil,
fish food or fish oil. It's just a stronger odor, and they can smell it from. Man, they can smell it so good. It doesn't need much. And I mean, for Dudley's thing, might be better to make sure and catch them walking down the road. But if the wind's drifting at all, or calm, they're gonna smell it from a long ways off.
Yeah, I don't know if you watch the coon in the woods or not, but or been around one real close. I mean, they're constantly they're looking for something to eat. They're hungry all the time. Seems like,
and they're curious.
Very. So something like that, they're gonna fiddle with it, and they're gonna look.
Yeah, and you see them with their nose in there all the time too.
Yeah, that's a good thing about those traps. You don't hardly miss with that trap. Like where a foot trap, if it's not bedded perfectly or they don't step on it just right, and there's too much travel in the pan, they're gonna jerk their hand back, But that right there, they're 100% committed when they put their hand in there, and that's what You know, I have had them pull them out of the ground and turn them upside down and pour it out, but that's just because they're smart. They're 100% committed when they stick their hand in that trap.
So, Bill, what about you? You got a tip for our listeners?
What I'm going to say is there are so many resources on trapping now, way more than there ever were. You know, the secrets that trappers had just weren't public. I'm talking 20, 30 years ago, but now you got YouTube and so many channels where people are devoting those channels to trapping. You could sit there and watch trapping episodes all day for weeks and learn a lot about trapping. But I think the key to it is you start with simple things and you start having success with it, and then you graduate into more complex. So you start out with a trapping pack that might include a dozen dog-proof traps, some stakes, maybe a little bait, and you start catching coons. You learn by doing that. And then if you decide you want to go on to coyotes, then you watch more videos, you buy a little bit more equipment.
That's graduate school there.
Yeah, that
then
is.
you get mad and frustrated, and then you keep trying, and you get mad and frustrated, and you keep trying.
I've heard a lot of people say that that's like one of the pinnacles is being able to catch a coyote.
I mean, the people that have it figured out have it figured out. You know, if you find somebody that can catch coyotes consistently, they've got it figured out. You know, you get lucky here and there and catch one, but somebody that can catch a coyote consistently has got, you know, down to an art. You know, it's very smart, because you try to think, if you've got 1,000 acres, you're trying to get that coyote to step in a 2-inch circle.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Out of, you know, that's where you're trying to get.
Plus, they don't even have a home range, and I want to say I heard somewhere that their average home range or whatever is like 40 square miles. So I mean, they're here today, gone tomorrow, and then trying to catch them like that. I know the really smart ones I've been around, and it's quite a few that we've had over the years. What made them smart was they knew what they didn't know. In other words, just like when the summer heat hits, it's like, if you want to keep paying me to do it, but I'm telling you, the best in the world is not going to have any luck right now. And they know when the right time is too, in the place, and how to narrow that down. It's kind of like the fisherman saying, eliminate the unproductive water. They do the same thing.
Sure.
How often are you supposed to check your traps?
Mississippi, it's every 36 hours. So, but if you're really wanting to trap, you're going to check them every day. Because you want to.
Right. That's exactly right.
So you'll set them late one evening and go back and check them the next morning?
Yeah, I check them every day, rain or shine. Man, we'll be out there this afternoon checking them. It's pretty as it is out there.
Yeah.
He even looks like a trapper. He's kind of got that persona about
What's
him.
that supposed to mean?
Well, he's got the big woolly beard and...
I'm not sure. I guess I'd take
Are
that
you
as a compliment.
stereotyping? I think he's stereotyping.
Here's the opposite of that. You could say, Bobby, I appreciate that. You do not look like a trapper.
No, I'm on the other end of the spectrum.
I'll take that.
Yeah, on that one, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I would like to think that our guys are a little motivated and can take this on, because I think it's not as daunting as I might have thought it was.
In today's world, it's so easy. Just take out your phone and go to Duke.
Yeah, and order some traps.
Trap a few. Try a few. It's so easy. You don't even have to go see anybody over it if you don't want to. Today's world is so easy to order what you want and watch how to do it. If you want to, go further than what we're offering up here, it's just so easy.
Public land. You can trap on public land. And everything benefits from it. You may not set traps, during this trapping season or whatever. You may not notice it, but I've trapped enough places, this and that. Like hunting club we're in, this will be the 4th or 5th year we've trapped in it. Well, you can notice a tremendous difference in the amount of turkeys that are on this place now, just for the past 4 or 5 years. It takes a couple of years to really notice it, but when it's noticeable, it's very noticeable.
That's like everything with gamekeeping and wildlife management. It's a long-term play for sure.
Well, it's like the turkey nest in this. We've been trapping for a long time, and that's not like we have this giant hatch every year. But I notice when there's a bad hatch, it's not as bad, and when there's a really good hatch, boy, we have an even better one. It just seems like it adds to everything. I will say too, clearly, and this is all I know, anecdotal. I don't keep numbers. But clearly, 100% trapping coyotes over an extended period, I'm going to say 6 or 7 straight years now, has definitely made a difference in deer movement, deer we see. the quality of deer hunting, seeing those bucks even during daylight that were so, because I think if they're from birth, a fawn or a doe, I mean, everything we do with one of these gamekeepers podcasts, nature adapts to everything we ever do. I mean, it's just the way of the universe. So what I'm getting at, a deer that are put under a lot of pressure and get caught and killed by, especially the fawns, or where they devastate them, they're bred into them move as little as possible. Don't leave a scent trail. Be very careful. They're skittish or nervous. I mean, they're put under that much pressure with my coats all the time. So I've just, for my own, results, we have seen a huge uptick in how much we see deer. I mean, if you're riding down the road, you look out there and see some does and stuff. They don't run for terror. They kind of watch you go. It's nice to have wildlife that's not so terrorized acting. For me, it is. And so I know also we're getting much greater fawn recruitment now, which leads to having to manage it better. But I would rather, like Glenn said, we all know Glenn over there and works for Jeff Fox, where he said, I want to make the choices, not the coyotes. That's a good point. I think he's a great coyote. So anyway, I know how many people deer hunt, and you might not could do it yourself on 200 or 300 acres, but if you have a collective area and you knock your coyotes down a notch and do it for a couple of years, I guarantee you're going to see better deer hunting. Yeah.
And then to take that back to, from what I understand we've had Mike Chamberlain in here a number of times, and for, there's a long list of reasons why. And Lanny, I'm looking at you talking about how habitat has changed in places.
Yeah.
And there's just more, I'm told there are more raccoons now than there's ever been. And so this is our way of trying to help out these nesting birds.
Yeah, I think
the better the habitat, the more animals.
Yeah, the more predators you're going to have anyway. It's a byproduct.
So I think this is a natural progression for a guy who's a gamekeeper to realize, I need to be doing this.
Yeah, you need to be setting some traps. There's no question about it.
For everything.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You need to talk about
one thing that resonates so well. Some of the guys in Pennsylvania, they have this on their T-shirts. They say the worst thing a conservationist can do is not manage wildlife. They take great pride in managing their predator population. That's totally in their mind every single day.
That's right, and they're not trying to pick on. Well, we are, so to speak, but you're just trying to keep it in balance, because just like the coyotes, if left unchecked, they will just about wipe out certain things. So, you're really just helping keep things in check, honestly, and help maintain the balance of nature.
Bill, is there any other advice that you've got? What about a way that in these dog proofs, is there a number? Does a guy need to start with 6 or?
You can start with 6. You can start with 12. Getting the basic tools is not going to set anybody back a significant amount. You get in the trapping deal and you spend less than $200 and you're all set. Anybody can contact us here in West Point or get on our website at duketraps.com. There are a lot of other retailers that do sell these traps as kits or as standalone items. You just buy them and start experimenting with them, and you'll have success.
And you've got all the traps too. So if a guy wanted live traps or conibears or anything, you've got all that.
They got it all.
Got it all.
We use a lot of snares. That's a big deal. We snare a lot of hogs with snares. And
hogs. Hog trapping hogs is a whole nother topic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
but if you're out there to catch one thing, you might as well catch them all.
That ought to be a T-shirt right there.
No doubt about it.
Dudley, why don't you ask him some questions? We've got a little thing, but Bill, I'm looking at you. You may not. Do you watch our television show, Bill?
I have not watched it.
Well, okay, but now Bill,
you're gonna hurt Bobby's feelings.
Now you probably
he's
don't
never
have
seen
cable
Hercules
television.
before. That's right.
So we've got a thing that Dudley asked some questions. It's brought. We call it rapid fire. We'll shoot them at you real quick, and we want you to answer them real quick. And it's brought to you by Springfield Armory. Our friends there, they make some fantastic pistols, and which would be really good for dispatching these raccoons when you catch them.
Sure would.
Trap.
That's right.
Okay, so keep an open mind here, and you can say neither or both.
Yeah.
Or pass.
There is no wrong answer.
Nope.
Yeah, I guess you could pass too. I don't think about that.
All right.
All right.
So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Potted meat or Vienes?
Viners,
Waffle House or IHOP?
Waffle House,
Raccoon, footholds or dog proof?
dog proofs,
Baits, lures for raccoon, fishy or fruity?
fishy,
Dye and wax or just wax?
neither,
Modded or no mods?
no mods,
Dispatch stick or rimfire?
rimfire,
Body hold or snare? Body grip.
body grip,
Hip boots or knee pads?
hip boots,
And last but not least, turduck hen or new pascoon?
turducken.
Bill was quick. He was more rapid than you were.
I think he answered them before you got
Yeah,
through
he
the
was
question.
ripping them down.
You'd be good at Jeopardy.
No
you know,
doubt.
just-
Get him on there.
Boom.
That was fun.
That was
yeah,
good.
my Uncle Walker trademarked the name New Pascoon
No,
back in the
kidding.
90s. Yeah.
Had he made any money on that?
No, he saw the turducken like in an old Cabela's magazine. He's not a hunter, and he just thought it was the funniest thing ever.
Yeah.
And,
So
he actually trademarked the name New Pascoon.
he must not have realized they were eating the turducken.
I don't know what to say about that one though, but that was we've enjoyed having you here, Bill, for sure.
Absolutely.
And one thing we want to ask, but we always do a trivia question. So if a guy is listening to, do you listen to our podcast, Bill? I'm probably gonna get my feelings hurt here.
he's
I'm just
gonna
gonna
listen to this
assume
one.
that you do,
I've,
but
I've known about it for a long time.
well,
You've been
it's-
going about 3 years or more.
Yeah.
well, it's and
That's
we've
about
got
right.
that's about right, and
Yep.
it's kind of we're trying the best we can, but so we ask a question, and if somebody's has been kind enough, and we sure appreciate every one of them, to leave a review on our podcast, they might win a prize. So if you get this, you or Cody, y'all can team up over there. The guy, I know you, and if y'all can answer this trivia question correctly, Mac, tell us who wins a prize.
So you're playing for Collier Country Bob that left us a review on Apple Podcasts. And the prize is a floor mat with an image of a British lab holding a duck.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
So the question is, how did the famous Conibear trap get its name?
Oh.
I know the answer to it. It was
He's an encyclopedia.
okay. I think at some point back in the 60s, there was an individual family name, Conibear. His first name was Frank Conibear. He came up with this concept, and it's evolved a little bit over the years, but it was a rotating jaw trap that effectively, was a kill type trap used for beaver, muskrats. And so anyway, that's where it came from.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
he nailed that. Have we ever had a guest just immediately?
I know,
know
he just
the
nailed
answer?
it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it was a family name. You
Yeah.
would think it was like, when you hear the name Conibear, you would think it was, based on functionality. So that's interesting that it was a family name.
So I want to sponsor him to go on Jeopardy.
Yeah.
And when the topic is
Yeah.
American trapping,
Yeah.
I'm putting my
For
money there.
10,000,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Glad you didn't ask me that.
And I think the guy was Canadian.
I don't know. You might have researched it, so if you know, you know.
If he's asking questions, he's
Okay.
sure researched it.
Yeah, I believe for a while it was called the Victor Conibear, and then he probably partnered with the Victors because that was a big name in trapping back then.
Right.
Huh.
I think they ended up buying that product,
Patent or
the
whatever.
patented product from
Okay.
him. Yep.
All right, well, Country Bob, you won. Toxie, you might want to keep your door shut next
You
week.
digging around in his closet
We
again?
found that back there. It's a really nice floor mat. It's got a big black Labrador holding a big mallard. It's beautiful. So
Yeah.
we'll get that. Hopefully, Bob will get in touch with us. So if you've got a topic, a podcast topic, or Bob, you can get in touch with us at gamekeepers@mossyoak.com. Suggest something. We'll probably end up having people want to get you back to talk about other
Yeah.
species like coyotes. We're going to be talking about those. Do you
Coyotes.
say coyotes or coyotes?
I think most people that I hang around with, they say coyotes.
Yeah, that's right. What do you say?
Cody.
Well, how about that? So you grew up watching cartoons.
I don't really watch much
Wally
TV.
Coyote. I like when my granddaughters coyotes.
Coyotes.
Yeah. Well, so we kind of skipped it, but at the beginning we usually do a blood on the biologic section. Dudley, what have you
I've got a
seen?
bunch, and I even got an Ask Dudley if you'll permit that as
Yeah,
well.
go ahead.
So I've got several. Haley O'Brien,
Yeah, she laid one down.
West Point native.
That's right. Go Haley.
She killed a nice 8-point and got scoped. But the photo on Instagram, she's all cleaned up with her deer, but she said she was covered in blood. Before
Tim had her shooting a 7 mag, you know.
Right. So after the doctor's visit and a change of clothes, she had her photo taken with the deer. Good buck, by the way.
How about Miss Lily last night?
Oh yeah, Lily Davis on the board, 125-pound doe. That's pretty good.
Yep.
That's
a
awesome.
great one for here.
Yep.
That's right.
First deer.
Lucas Moore, I see him on Instagram all the time. He's a big gamekeeper fan. Actually, I meant CJ Moore. His son Lucas killed a deer, and it's CJ Moore 580 on Instagram. They're always doing cool gamekeeper stuff and documenting it. But congrats, Lucas, on your first rabbit.
Oh, nice.
Jeff Lindsay, he killed this amazing color phase mallard. Did y'all see that?
I didn't see that.
No.
It was a really light colored mallard. It had a lot of blonde looking feathers on it. So they were asking.
Reminds me of that story we heard last week.
Oh yeah.
Is it a hybrid or a color phase? And everybody was kind of arguing over it, but go check that out. And then Michael Hunter's son, Zach,
came down,
got his first buck
whitetail.
and first doe.
That's right.
And had a good old time. Michael's a big friend of our family, and we love it when he comes to visit. So
Toronto.
yeah.
Then we had Eli and Caston McKellar. They're on the board too. You know, so you could tell we're on doe patrol around the Mississippi area too.
There's nothing like that. You know, we talk about maintaining that wonderment, but that first deer
Oh man,
thing is I think it's more special with the dad taking them or whoever did. But it's just so cool to see. I mean, it goes back to what's so special about all our sports.
Nobody forgets their first
No.
whatever.
No.
You know, I remember all my first squirrels, first deer, first turkey.
I got one more too.
Yeah.
My dad, he's on the board for this year.
Well, how about
Awesome.
that?
It'll be his 63rd year deer hunting, and blew one down yesterday thanks to Toxie. So
Yeah.
appreciate it, everybody.
Well, congratulations to Big Steve.
Yeah. With a bullet that his buddy made, Jim Porter,
Who just passed away?
Who just passed
Used
away.
to work for us a long time ago from here.
Was one of the first sales guys, wasn't he?
It was one, yeah. Close, not right away, but he was with us, and he was a legendary shot.
Yeah. They shot on the rifle team
Yeah.
together. So
Yeah.
before Jim passed, they were talking, and he had made him some paper patch bullets, which for a 45-70. So Dad was bound and determined to take
Really
Jim's
cool.
shells.
With an iron sight rifle,
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Well, he slipped in on me. He put a
he
scope
did.
on
He
that
did.
thing before he
Oh,
showed
yeah.
up yesterday.
Well, let's hit the horn for Big Steve
Yeah.
if we could. So, well, look, okay. So the next thing, I'm gonna leave y'all with it. I got to go meet a plumber, but Dudley's got an Ask Dudley question, and you guys will be enthralled. But before I slip out of here, I want to say thank you for being here, Bill and Cody. Yeah,
That's one of the weakest excuses to go get in a deer stand on the last day I've
I mean,
ever
we know where you're
heard
going.
it.
We
That
know
was
where you're
pitiful.
going.
Just be honest.
I thought Jesse had already killed all your bucks.
Yeah. Well, she has. So. But I have a feeling I may have missed the Roto Rooter guy, and I may be in trouble.
Well, you might as well stick around for that Ask Dudley, man.
I'm going to try to salvage the Roto Rooter scenario. So, Dudley, I'm going to turn it over to you, and thank y'all, and this has been fun.
Thank you, Bobby.
So this is not a question from a specific listener. Everybody is wanting to get into this wildflower game, and we planted some in Toxie's backyard a few years ago. We've planted them all over town. We've planted them all over the place, but everybody seems to be a little intimidated by it, especially on their first try. And so I want to give you a scenario that will make it easy for your first try. So the first thing you want to do is pick a site. Don't go pick your best soil down in your bottom ground. Find something like an old logging deck or an area on a ridge top that's just not very fertile. That's gonna hold back a lot of the weeds and competition. So if you're to go disc up some ground and throw some seed out down in your best bottom ground, you're likely to have 8-foot weeds, coming up in there. So at my farm, I actually have a little pad that we had bulldozed about 20 years ago. We were thinking about putting a house up there that we never did. And so as a result of moving all that dirt around, it's kind of poor soil. and it's just covered with crabgrass and foxtail. And so what you can do this time of year, if you're in the South and you have some weeds growing, you can go ahead and spray it and kill what's there. And then in a couple of weeks, just fling your seed out. Just follow the recommendation on the bag. And then this spring, when you're at your farm for turkey season, you'll probably have a lot of grassy weeds pop up. And so you can have some clethodim on hand and just overspray it with some clethodim and kill the grass. Again, you're on a poorish site, so you're not going to have a lot of competition from really tall stuff. So if you do have a few broadleaf weeds pop up in there, that's probably a good thing. They're actually wildflowers. And that's it. You don't really have to do a whole lot of spraying because you're putting it on an easy site where they won't have a lot of competition.
Yeah, you might not have to do any, but if you do, the grass,
again,
get rid of the grass.
exactly.
It makes a huge difference.
For sure.
And talk about the time frame a little bit. How long do these things take to get established, and then when can you actually start seeing stuff?
Yeah, so if it's mixed species, some of it may not stratify quite long enough, and it may come up the next year, but you're going to have something blooming in that first year.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
And then every year after that, it's going to change. Some of those flowers aren't going to do well until their second or third year. You'll probably have a mixture of perennials and reseeding annuals. So, that first year you will see results.
We're not here to talk about it today and give them those species, but there are so many of these native species of wildflowers that are so beneficial for wildlife. And when you do establish them, that's maybe it's a little more to establish than like whatever a 3-month food plot, but they're there. They may be there for your lifetime. They may be there in the seed bank forever. So it's from a long-term perspective, it could really, really pay off and be beautiful.
Right. And it's oftentimes on a site that's probably not conducive to a lot of these, designer food plot type seeds that they require more inputs and they need better fertility and pH.
Right. But a lot of times in some spots I've had a little success was the road right away. And in daylight in the road, you kind of get rid of some of the topsoil to do that. And then you make your drive through the place beautiful at the same time. So that's a great place to use. Now, you might, if it's just a little dim log road with leaves falling on, you might not have enough sunlight. But most roads that have been daylighted properly, say whatever, 40, 50 feet.
Yeah.
Maybe less, 30.
Areas around your gates, logging decks, ridge tops.
And really easy to spray and tend to. So I highly encourage people. It's so much fun to make your place more beautiful. And, when you take your friends there and your family, it's just adds a value to it.
Yeah, it's great brood habitat, good nesting habitat.
So you're starting some wildflowers pretty soon over the nursery too with our plugs too. So there's an option there too.
And that's something else to add. You can supplement it with some plugs and get some instant gratification.
Yep.
A lot of those will go to seed the first year. You can collect your own seed and kind of fling it out in your patch. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but just pick the right site. And don't go too big on your first time.
Yeah, it sounds like the great thing is you pick the poorest site for this.
Exactly.
Hey, man, can't beat that.
So, they've evolved for millions of years without fertilizer and lime, So,
all right.
Good stuff.
Mr. Know-It-All.
There he is.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
So, well, that was fun.
That was good. So we're going to wrap it up without Bobby,
I guess. What did we learn today? That's what Bobby would say.
I'm going to tell you what I learned. You need to, listening to Cody and to Bill, you just need, I'm out in the woods all the time. There's no reason I shouldn't have, some traps in my truck and start dropping these things out. We're filling feeders and working on food plots and planting trees. I'm out there anyway, so get some traps out there and start working on these predators.
Yeah.
It's easier than you think it is.
The bottom line was I learned to just go do it.
Yeah.
There's not a big magic. Anything you need to know is available. Just go do it and then take it on your own, and it'll be your, learn your own way.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah. February.
Great time.
Great time. That's right. Burning and trapping.
Burning and trapping. Yep.
Trapping.
Get
planting
you in the
wildflowers.
woods between deer season and turkey season.
That's right.
And you don't have to wait for the right atmospheric conditions to trap.
Nope.
He says every day.
Well, every day. I have to. We'll give Catherine credit. She goes with me everywhere.
Yeah.
She goes, sets traps, rain, shine.
Wow.
She's a warrior.
Awesome. She's right there with, she
That's
goes,
awesome.
goes her
That
way,
is
I
really
go mine.
awesome.
we pile them up.
Yeah, we got to talk about the snaring a little bit later too.
The gamekeeper lifestyle.
That's
it's,
it.
It's just awesome. So
Well, good. Well, we appreciate y'all being here.
Man, we
appreciate
enjoyed
y'all
it.
being a part of the West Point community. Everything y'all mean here
Yeah,
too.
proud of both y'all,
Yeah, no
especially
doubt
the
about it.
Duke business, and they've done such a great job. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just phenomenal.
Yeah, we got cool. we
You
got
guys
cool.
are too kind, and I'm glad to be a part of this. Thank you so much.
Appreciate y'all being here.
and who's going to ride to Bobby's house to make sure he's actually
Yeah, there's no telling. He's been talking. He's like, I'm hearing water running in my house. I'm like, oh, that's not.
It's ironic. It's the last day of deer season, and
And he
there's a cold
disappears.
front just north of us bearing down.
And he fakes a call from the Roto-Rooter guy. That's pretty good.
If we have a blood on the biologic Bobby report next week, it's
We'll know. We'll know exactly.
well.
Good deal. Well, say goodbye, Dudley.
Goodbye, Dudley.
Get us out of here, Mac.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast, and be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine, and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.